Welcome back with another video on TryHackMe.com. This is Zaheen Nazir and we are doing OAuth Vulnerabilities today. So this is premium room and it is off type walkthrough. So let's get into it. Did I click on? Yeah, clicked on it. So OAuth Vulnerabilities. Learn how the OAuth protocol works and master techniques to exploit it. Okay. It is a medium difficulty, but it will take almost 2 hours. So I think I will create 2 videos for this room to cover all from task 1 to task 10. So let's get started. I will start the attack box anyway. Okay. And let me minimize it. So we're gonna move forward. Okay, task 1, introduction. In modern web applications, OAuth vulnerabilities emerge as a serious and frequently disregarded risk. This is very true. When we talk about OAuth, we are talking about OAuth 2.0. So the newest one is OAuth 2.1. All right. So I have already gone through this room offline, and I reset the progress so that I can do it with you guys. Okay. So just out of transparency, I have done this already, so I know a lot of information about this room beforehand. The commonly used authorization framework. The vulnerabilities occur when hackers take advantage of weakness in the OAuth 2.0. Believe me, there are a lot of weaknesses in the OAuth 2.0, but if you are using the OAuth 2.1 or latest version, so all of these vulnerabilities are already patched. You don't need to worry about this, but it is important that we get to know these vulnerabilities so that if we have similar kind of solution in which OAuth solutions are used, or if there is any legacy application which is using OAuth 2.0, we can upgrade it to 2.1 at least and plug all the vulnerabilities that we'll find in this room, okay, which allows for CSRF, cross-site request forgery, XSS, data leakage and exploitation of other vulnerabilities. Learning objective. Throughout this room, we will gain a comprehensive understanding of the following key concepts. Essential concept for OAuth 2.0, grant types. If you have worked with entity framework or OIDC or any kind of these technologies where OAuth 2.0 is used, you know about this grant types. Even you have worked with SSO, Google sign-on, or Microsoft, or GCP, or any kind of these things where you can log in through your email address through any of these big 3 companies, then you already know about the OAuth 2.0, because behind the scene they're using OAuth, but not 2.0 but the latest version. Okay, OAuth 2.0 flow, we will understand that. Identify OAuth services, exploitation techniques, evolution of OAuth 2.1, why we should move on to 2.1, right? Okay, and understanding our following topic is recommended before starting the room. I hope you already taken the OWASP top 10 protocol and servers and how website works. These are covered in the beginner or pre-security learning path. Okay, if you are interested. So we're gonna complete this one and move on to the second task. Okay, key concept. This task will discuss the key concept of understanding OAuth, specifically OAuth 2.0. These concepts form the foundation for understanding how the OAuth 2.0 framework was built. As a pen tester or a secure coder, or as an application security engineer, it is essential to understand these concepts to pen test a website or write code without a vulnerability. To make these concepts more relatable, we will explain them through a daily routine example. Using a coffee shop's mobile app to order and pay for coffee. Okay, so they have a very nice graphic card here. So we are putting a log on top of the coffee. Okay, resource owner. So there are some terminology we need to understand. The resource owner is a person or system that controls certain data and can authorize an application to access that data on their behalf. This concept is fundamental as it centers around user consent and control. For example, you are the resource owner as a coffee shop customer, You can control your account information and grant the coffee shop's mobile app permission to access your data. Right? The client can be a mobile app or server-side web application. It acts as an intermediary, requesting access to resources and performing actions as permitted by a resource owner. For example, the coffee shop's web app, which you use to pay for coffee, is the client. Your authorization is needed to access your account details and payment information. So the client is like consider any kind of website. In this case, we have coffee shop application or mobile application. So who is the resource owner? Resource owner is you. Okay, because you are logging in through SSO, or for example from with your email by Google, and you need to give the consent that this particular client, which is the coffee application, can use and is authorized to log in through your Google email, okay, and take some of the information from Google side. So this is what they are trying to explain here. So the resource owner is who? A person or system. Client is a mobile application in this case, or a server-side web application, okay, who will be authorized on behalf of you to do something, okay. And authorized meaning that you are giving some information and sharing some information to them. And what kind of information you will be sharing? It will be mentioned on the authorization page, like which kind of information you are sharing, okay. Authorization server. So this is in our case Google. The authorization server is responsible for issuing access token to the client after successful authenticating the resource owner and obtaining their authorization. So for example, authorization server will do what? We need to log in through Google email on this client application. So what we'll do? You will click on the button, log in with Google email. So Google email will check if you are already logged in. If you are not, then it will log in first. You are a resource owner, you are logging in, and then after logging in, it will show you the authorization page where you will click on the authorization button to authorize the client application to access some of the information which will be mentioned on the same screen. And once you do the authorization, the Google will issue an access token to this client application that, okay, this access token can be now used by this client application, and it already contains the information that was requested. Okay, we'll see all of this in this demo, in this room. The authorization server plays a crucial role in OAuth process by ensuring the client is granted permissions only after legitimate user authentication and consent. Okay. For example, the coffee shop's backend system that handles authentication and authorization is the authorization server. It verifies your credentials, of course, grant the web app permissions to access your account. That is clear. Resource server. The server hosting the protected resources can accept and respond to protected resources requests using access token. This server ensures that only authenticated and authorized clients can access or manipulate the resource owner's data. For example, the resource server is the coffee shop's database that stores your account information, order history, and payment details. It responds to requests from the web app, allowing it to retrieve and modify your data. So the resource server is what? Resource server is protected resource. So for example, you need to order a coffee in this case. So it will not work without logging into, for example, Google and taking the consent. So in this case, we will call this resource server as a protected resource, or resource server is hosting a protected resource. Now, this resource server will check internally if the access token is valid. Okay, so you go to, for example, authorization server first, and authorization will issue an access token to the client. Now the client will try to execute something or access the resource server, which is protected, maybe for example an API which will require an access token. So client will pass the access token that it get from the authorization server. Then the resource server will make sure that okay, I get the access token, is this valid? It will internally call the authorization server to check if the access token is valid and it was generated by the authorization server and it is not expired. Then in this case, then the resource server will allow the client application to do the services or the logic that is implemented on the resource server side. In this case, in our example, it is coffee shops database. You can modify some of the information. All right. Next, authorization grant. The client uses a credential representing the resource owner's authorization to access their protected resources. To obtain an access token, the primary grant types are authorization, code, implicit, resource owner, password credentials, and client credentials. So these are the authorization grants and levels. For example, level 2, level 3, 4, 5, like this. Okay. So all of this we will cover once we move on in this room. So don't worry about any of this. For example, when you first log into the coffee shops app, you are giving an authorization grant, like entering your username and a password. The app uses this grant to get an access token from the authorization server. We will discuss in detail in the next task. Very good. Access token, a credential that the client can use to access protected resources on behalf of the resource owner. It has a limited time span and scope. Access tokens are essential for maintaining secure and protected communication between the client and resource server without repeatedly asking the resource owner for credentials. For example, once you log in to the coffee shop app, it will receive an access token which allows the app to access your account, to place orders and make payment without asking you to log in again for a specific period. Okay, so instead of logging in again and again, because you have access token, you can do pretty much anything with this access token. It's a kind of pass if you are checking into a hotel room. So the card that you will receive, which will you will punch in on the door, is the access token. Okay. Refresh token, a credential that the client can use to obtain a new access token without requiring the resource owner to authenticate. Refresh tokens are typically long-lived and provide a way to maintain a user session without frequent login interruptions. For example, when your access token expires, the web app will use a refresh token to get a new access token and you don't have to log in again. So logging in is like checking into the hotel where you already given your passport and everything is in the system. Now you lost your access token, which is your card to enter the room. You will go to the reception. You will say that, okay, I lost my access token. Okay, I need a new one. So in this case, the refresh token is you already checked in. They will generate a new access token for you and you are good to go. So this refresh token is will have a long validity. You can consider it will be valid until your last day of stay at hotel, and once you check out, that means the refresh token will not be valid anymore, and also the access token will also expire at the same time. All right. Redirect URI. The URI to which the authorization server will redirect the resource owner's user agent after the grant or denial of the authorization. It checks if the client for which the authorization response has been requested is correct. For instance, after interacting with the coffee shop app and logging in, you will be redirected to the authorization server by the app page in the coffee shop's app, commonly known as redirect URI, to confirm that you successfully logged in. So redirect URI is URI, consider it as hotel room. So once you check in, you have the access token, everything is okay. Now where you will go, where you should go and sleep, what is the room number, this is what we will consider as a redirect URI. Okay. Scopes are mechanisms for limiting an application's access to the user account. This is the scope considered as hotel facilities. Like you can go to the bar, you can go to the massage center, you can use the gym, breakfast is included or not, um, uh, pool access is there or not, or whatnot. Okay, so this is what we will consider as scope. Scopes are mechanism for limiting an application's access to the user's account. They allow the client to specify the level of access needed and authorization server to inform the user what access level the application is requesting. Scope helps enforce the principle of least privileges. Principle of least privilege, we cover it in our previous rooms. Go check it out. For example, the coffee shops app may request different scopes, such as access to your order history and payment details. As a resource owner, you can see what information the app requests access to and grant or deny permissions. Okay, state parameter. An optional parameter maintains the state between the client and the authorization server. It can help prevent CSRF attacks by ensuring that the response matches the client request. So consider the state parameter as, okay, you are moving out of the hotel, but you are still checked in and everything is there. You are just going for outing. Okay, you tell the reception that you are going out and you will be out for 5 hours. Okay, so this is where you will save the state. Okay, you're telling that, okay, I'm going out. So now if somebody is checking into the room of the where we are staying, that means somebody is trying to do something within our room. They are trying to steal something, or they are entering unauthorized way. So in this case, this state parameter will help us prevent the CSRF. So somebody can, for example, use our card to enter in our room and steal some data. So since you already informed the reception, they have some kind of mechanism to see, okay, if you are not returned and somebody opened or used the access token to access some of the resources, then there is something going on. So they will check. So this is how a state parameter will prevent the CSRF, cross-site request forgery. Attacks by issuing the response matches the client's request. The state parameter is a crucial part of the securing the OAuth flow. It is optional in 2.0, but it is mandatory in 2.1 OAuth. Okay. For example, when you initiate the login process, the coffee shop's app sends a state parameter to authorization server. This parameter helps ensure that the response you receive is linked to your original request, protecting against certain types of attacks. Token and authorization endpoint. The authorization server's endpoint is where the client exchanges the authorization grant or refresh token for an access token. In contrast, the authorization endpoint is where the resource owner is authenticated and authorizes the client to access the protected resources. So token and authorization endpoint is the reception. Okay, reception will issue the access token and all other things in a hotel scenario, in a hotel analogy scenario. By familiarizing yourself with the topics, you will easily understand the exploitation techniques and associated vulnerabilities in the upcoming task. Yes, I kind of provide an analogy to understand all of this, so hopefully it is much easier to understand once we move on to the other task here. Which optional parameter can be used to prevent the CSRF? It is state, we know that. What credential can the client use to access protected resources on behalf of resource owner? What credentials can client use to access protected resources on behalf of resource owner? Access token? Yeah, okay, awesome. Although I have done this room before, but still, I mean, wherever you struggle, the first time you will struggle it again unless you memorize everything. Okay. OAuth grant types. Okay. OAuth 2.0 provides several grant types to accommodate various scenarios and client types. These grant types define how an application can obtain an access token to access the protected resources on behalf of the resource owner. In this task, we will discuss 4 primary OAuth 2.0 grant types. Authorization code grant. The authorization code grant is the most commonly used OAuth 2.0 flow suited for server-side applications, PHP, Java, .NET, or many other things you can use, many other libraries or frameworks you can use. In this flow, the client redirects the user to the authorization server, and where the user authenticates and grants authorization. The authorization server then redirects the user to the client with an authorization code. The client exchanges the authorization code for an access token by requesting the authorization server token endpoint. Okay. Even though if this description does not make sense, it's okay. We'll do the practical and you will understand all of this. Okay, let's go through this flow. We have resource owner, which is us. We have an application, we have authorization server, and we have resource server. So this is hotel room. This is some kind of authorization server on the reception side, and this is the application, which is hotel itself. Access application, we go to the hotel, authenticate and request authorization. They will ask for, okay, give me the passport and your booking details. We give them the authentication and grants. Okay, these are our information. The authorization server is the internal server or internal application which hotel is using to manage the state and everything. So the application, the hotel will put the information or pass the information to the authorization server. Authorization server will say, okay, you are good to go. This is the authorization code that I sent you internally to the application. I found the record for this user, and now application, the hotel will say, okay, I received the code, now give me the access token for this. Okay, it will say, okay, you need access token because the resource owner want to access the hotel room, which is the resource server. Okay, in this case, the authorization server, the internal system, will give the issue the access token. Now request the resource with the access token. Now the application, the hotel, will try to access, validate that, okay, this access token is working for the resource server or not. Yes, it's working. It will give the response, and once response will be given, we are okay. We generate the card with the access token and send it back to resource owner. So this is the flow how it will work. I think there are still 2 or 3 steps here which are missing, where we basically give the access to the resource owner that to the application that you are validated, you are authorized, and this is the access token, and now you can directly access the resource server here. But in this case, it is authorization code grant. That means it will be from the server side, it will be from the hotel side. It will never reach to us because the hotel application is trying to authenticate us for the hotel room. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Let's move on. This grant type is known for its enhanced security, as the authorization code is exchanged for an access token server to server. So it's from server to server, not client to server. Okay, that means the access token will never reach to the resource owner, which is us. Meaning the access token is not exposed to the user agent, browser, or us in this case, thus reducing the risk of token leakage. It also supports using refresh token to maintain the long-term access without repeated user authentication. So this is kind of, for example, because this is a server to server communication happening. So in this case, consider a bank vault where you need to authenticate and authorize before you enter into a bank vault. So bank vault is this resource server in this case. So what happens is the hotel or the banker or the security person who is there to validate everything, he will open the door for you. Okay, yeah, he will not hand you the keys to that door. Okay, so this is how it is protected. He will never give you the access to the actual vault. The security person will be always there to make sure that everything is okay, and you do your thing and you go back. Now, implicit grant. This is interesting. The implicit grant is primarily designed for mobile and web application where the client cannot securely store secrets. So in this analogy, we can consider the hotel room. It directly issues the access token to the client without requiring an authorization code exchange. In this flow, the client redirects the user to authorization server. After the user authenticates and grants authorization, the authorization server returns an access token in the URL fragment. The complete flow is shown below. So it is almost same. Access application, it will say, okay, we need to validate you first, authenticate and request authorization. You will authenticate and grant authorization from authorization server. Authorization server will issue a token through a URL. You will request the resource with the access token, as you can see, and then the response will return to your application, but it will go to you as well. I think they have missed here one point as well here. Let's move forward. This grant type is simplified and suitable for client who cannot securely store client secret. It is faster as it involves fewer steps than the authorization code grant. However, it is less secure as the access token is exposed to the user agent. But you never send this access token to the user agent in this flow. That means this flow is not right. You need to update that. TryHackMe, you need to update this figure. It is faster, involve fewer steps, okay. However, it is less secure as the access token is exposed to the user agent and can be logged in the browser history. It also does not support refresh tokens. Okay, so in this case, it does not support the refresh token. Okay. They are using almost same thing over and over again. But in this case, yeah, this is different. Okay. Resource owner password credentials grant. The resource owner password credential grant is used when the client is highly trusted by the resource owner, such as first-party applications. The client collects the user's credential, username and password directly and exchange them for access token as shown below. Okay, so client hand over everything to the application. Application will call the authorization server, send the username password, issue the access token, then request the resource with the access token from the resource server, and then the response is returned to the application itself. In this flow, the user provides their credential directly to the client. I don't think so. This is a very good practice. It should be obsolete by now, I think. The client then sends the credential to the authorization server, which verifies the credentials and issues an access token. The grant type is direct, requiring fewer interaction, making it suitable for highly trusted application where the user is confident in providing their credential. You never trust any application. You always go for that. Okay, this is the least trusted application. Let's secure this application now. Okay. So this is kind of vulnerability also. If you are sending your username password to an application which is intermediary between the authorization server. So, okay. Where the user is confident providing their credentials, however, it is less secure because it involves sharing credentials directly with the client and is unsuitable for third-party application. That is correct. Client credentials grant. The client credential grant is used for server-to-server interaction without user involvement. The client uses these credentials to authenticate with the authorization server and obtain an access token. In this flow, the client authenticates with the authorization server using its client credential, client ID and secret, and the authorization server issues an access token directly to the client. That is very true. So we don't have any resource owner here. It directly application is trying to in the application you will say, okay, this is the authentication client ID and secret. Okay, and then authorization server say, okay, I'll issue the access token here. And in this case, the resource owner is the application itself. Application is trying to authenticate itself within an authorization server that I want to connect with your authorization, this authorization server, for example. So only the receptionist in the hotel is authorized to access the hotel management system. In this case, the authorization server is hotel management system. Not everybody can access this authorization, the hotel management system. So in order for receptionists to interact with the authorization system, they need to plug in their client ID and secret to make sure that, okay, this is Zahir who's logging in to the hotel management system. So we can track the actions that Zahir is doing on the authorization server, okay, by using our hotel management system. So this is the workflow, how it will look like in this case. Authenticate with the client ID and secret, issue an access token, request the resources with the access token from the resource server, and turn the response here. I hope this is clear. I think they needed to provide a little bit more information, but I think they kept the things very simple so everybody can understand who have never worked with the OAuth 2.0. Since I have a background in using all of these systems, that I have developed a lot of systems using OAuth. So for me, it is less information, and it needs to be very detailed one in order to understand complete flow. So moving on, this grant type is suitable for backend services and server-to-server communication, and it does not involve user credentials, thus reducing security risk related to the user data exposure. The next task will show how the OAuth flow works within a web application. Okay, what is the grant type often used for server-to-server interaction? Server-to-server interaction, we have implicit grant. Is it server? No. I think this one, authorization code grant. They have is it client is redirected? Just a minute. We have few things we can either it is implicit grant. Congratulations, access token, authorization server returns, no. I don't think so. Resource owner, no. Client credential grant. Let me go with this one. Implicit grant. Oh, it is not. The server to server is this grant type is suitable for maybe this one. Client credential grant. Because it's specifically mentioned server to server, so this could be the thing. Yay! Okay, so this is server to server. They have mentioned it here as well. They have mentioned the server to server as well on the a few others, but this is the right one as per our understanding. Client credential. Alright, so we passed 32 minutes into the video, so I'm gonna close it for now. In the next video, we'll try to tackle from task 4 to task 7, and in the last video, I will tackle from task 8 to 10. So thank you guys for joining me on this journey. I hope this video is informative for you, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Help us build the community on this channel. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any suggestion, please put it in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.